Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a literal geopolitical chess match. We're tracking the incredible rise of Muhammad Ali. And just to be totally clear right up front, we are talking about the 19th century ruler of Egypt here, definitely not the boxer. This is the fascinating story of how one insanely ambitious guy started out as a loyal Ottoman servant, played the world's biggest empires against each other, and practically single-handedly drew the borders of the modern Middle East. The sheer scale and, honestly, the rapid succession of his military campaigns are just breathtaking. I mean, over the span of just a few decades, we jump from regional border skirmishes in the 1810s straight into a major European theater in Greece, surviving a catastrophic naval disaster, then entirely pivoting to invade the Ottoman Empire itself, before finally forcing a totally terrified European coalition to step in and stop him by 1840. So, to make sense of this massive arc of ambition, we're going to break his journey down into 5 distinct phases: the Hijaz and Sudan Wars, the Maria War in Greece, the Navarino naval disaster, his direct clash with the Sultan, and finally, the 1840 Treaty of London. Okay, let's get right into it. Phase 1. The Hijaz and Sudan Wars. This is where he tests his military might. Starting out, Muhammad Ali is basically playing the role of the indispensable loyal servant. The Ottoman Sultan had a major problem on his hands with the Wahhabi uprising, so Ali dispatched his sons, Ibrahim and Ismail, to go crush it. But here's the thing. Ali wasn't just doing his boss a solid. He was out there securing the Red Sea, gathering vital intelligence on European interests, and tapping into fresh economic resources. Most importantly, he was using these really rugged, difficult environments as a massive testing ground to sharpen his brand new, modernized military machine. But, all this regional success brings up a pretty pivotal question. Securing the Red Sea is great and all, but how does a provincial ruler suddenly step off the local map and onto the fiercely competitive global stage? Like, how do you actually force Europe to pay attention to you? Which brings us to Phase 2, the Maria War in Greece. A golden opportunity? Now, historical source material, like the deeply detailed text published by Hindawi, gives us a really fascinating perspective on this era. When a massive crisis erupted in the Morea, which is the Peloponnese Peninsula in Greece, the Sultan urgently requested help. But Muhammad Ali didn't view this as just some imperial duty. No, for him, this was a golden entry ticket. This was his chance to deploy his modern army and prove to the European superpowers that he absolutely deserved a seat at the big table. What's super interesting here is how the historical texts detail the conduct of Muhammad Ali's son, Ibrahim Pasha. See, European narratives at the time painted this Ottoman-Egyptian intervention as just a wild, indiscriminate massacre. But the impartial records actually show Ibrahim acting as a calculating, thoroughly modern general. He strictly separated combatants from civilians. He went out of his way to protect agricultural fields, and he secured commercial shipping routes. He wasn't some reckless warlord. He was highly strategic. Phase 3, the Navarino naval disaster. The momentum comes to a devastating halt. So, fearing the total collapse of the Greek rebellion, the major European powers, we're talking Britain, France, and Russia, decided they had to step in. And in October 1827, their combined Allied fleets literally trapped the Ottoman Egyptian navy in the Bay of Navarino. The result was absolute annihilation. Muhammad Ali's prized modern fleet was sent straight to the bottom of the ocean. And this right here, this is the ultimate turning point of his entire career. Before Navarino, Ali operated safely under the Sultan's umbrella, but with his fleet totally gone and his army stranded, he realized the Sultan couldn't, or maybe wouldn't, save them. So to evacuate his men, Ali bypassed his sovereign entirely. He negotiated directly with European officers. The illusion of Ottoman protection was completely shattered. From that moment on, he knew he was on his own. Phase 4, the direct clash with the Sultan. Time to demand compensation. Having lost his fleet fighting for the Sultan's cause, he demanded the Levant as compensation. When the Sultan denied him, Ibrahim Pasha launched an absolutely lightning-fast campaign against his former master. Starting in late 1831, Egyptian forces just swept northward. They took Acre, marched straight into Damascus, crushed the resistance at Homs, pushed through the Bailan Pass, and by December 1832, they had completely annihilated the main Ottoman army at Konya. Think about that for a second. The loyal servant had suddenly become a literal existential threat. Ibrahim had opened up a road going straight to Constantinople. The situation was so incredibly desperate that the Sultan did the unthinkable. He literally begged his greatest enemy, the Russian bear, to send troops to protect his capital. After a brief, uneasy truce, war broke out again in 1839. Ibrahim decisively crushed the Ottomans at Nazib, and then the entire Ottoman naval fleet just sailed over to Alexandria and defected. A provincial governor practically had a 600-year-old empire at his absolute mercy. Finally, Phase 5, the 1840 Treaty of London, the European intervention. To prevent a chaotic scramble for Ottoman territory that honestly could have triggered a world war, Europe stepped in to clip his wings. The 1840 Treaty of London forced some massive concessions. Ali lost his hard-won Syrian empire, he had to drastically reduce his military, and he had to return that defected fleet. But in exchange for backing down, he secured the Holy Grail. He got hereditary rule over Egypt, ensuring he and his family could no longer be arbitrarily fired by the Sultan. Those terms were officially cemented a year later in 1841. Muhammad Ali basically had to accept that his grand dream of dominating and reviving the Ottoman Empire from the inside, it was over. But in being contained by Europe, something really incredible happened. Egypt was no longer just an interchangeable province on some imperial map. His actions had effectively forced it to become a distinct, legally recognized geopolitical state. Which leaves us with this really fascinating paradox to wrap up on. Muhammad Ali set out to build a machine capable of dominating the entire Islamic world, but he was ultimately boxed in by a unified Europe. Yet, when you look at the map today, while his massive military ambitions were eventually contained, didn't his relentless geopolitical maneuvering ultimately succeed in carving out the foundations of modern Egypt? Sometimes, it seems, you really can win by losing.